This segment is all about CampCodger.com, which is a podcast featuring rocking chair wisdom from three old guys and experts. Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial, and this segment is brought to you by BooksGrowBusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. Joining me on this segment is Randy Schultz. He's the co-host of CampCodger.com. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Randy, tell us a little bit about CampCodger.com and who are the types of folks that you serve?
Well, CampCodger, as you might guess from the name, is a podcast for older folks. And it turns out that the older population in America is the fastest growing segment of the population. There are 56 million Americans over age 65. And every day in America, 10,000 people celebrate their 65th birthday. So it's a growing part of the population. And at the same time, let's face it, most old people don't listen to podcasts. 13% of that population listens regularly to a podcast. So there's a lot of upside potential, and CampCodger wants to talk to those folks.
Was that the inspiration for the show, to get more folks to listen, or what was the inspiration for CampCodger?
Well, it's partly to celebrate the fact that getting old isn't always such a horrible proposition. You know, you hear a lot about, I'm getting so old, right? There's a lot of wonderful things about getting older. I mean, we have grandkids, we have more time, we have more disposable income. There's a lot of good stuff. And even though a recent segment of CampCodger was all about things we hate about getting old, the fact is we're all pretty happy about it.
You mentioned the challenge of reaching folks on a podcast, yet you've created a podcast. It almost sounds like a kind of a meta thing of a challenge within a challenge. How do you overcome that and get folks to find CampCodger and to listen if they're not already listening to podcasts?
Right. Well, one of the things we're doing is we're doing a lot of outreach. And as a matter of fact, our business cards, the three of us co-hosts, there's a little QR code on the business card. We walk people through how to use your cell phone to take a picture of that, right, and connect to the CampCodger website and show them how to subscribe. So we're kind of evangelists for podcasting to an older audience.
Much needed, absolutely. Tell us a little bit of the appeal of CampCodger. What are some of the things? Give us a 10,000-foot view of what folks can discover when they tune in.
Well, we do a lot of shows that are all about information, you know, the topics that older folks want to hear about. We did a show with an expert declutterer. There is such a thing, somebody who helps people get rid of the stuff, the clutter in their lives and their garages and attics, right? I mean, that's news you can use. We also do some memory lane things where we actually look back at some of the things that we grew up with. We did a really popular episode about bands of the 1970s. What was the best music? You know, what was the top selling album? So it's a real mix. We call it infotainment for an older audience.
So far, how long have you been doing it, and what's the response been like from the audience?
Well, we've been doing this for 1 year. We just celebrated our 1 year anniversary on this show. And the response has been great. I mean, people love the show. We get great comments from our listeners. Sometimes we use those as in an opening segment on the show that we call Letters from Camp. You know, the whole camp thing is very tongue-in-cheek because a lot of us went to summer camp as kids. So we have that kind of shared memory. And so we wanted to create that kind of a fun environment, retro but modern, as the basis for the show.
Randy, what inspired you to get in the show and become a co-host there, and kind of tell us the evolution of where you came from and how you got started?
Well, I'm a marketing guy. I've had a marketing PR advertising company for a long time. I used to tell people that I knew that I am unemployable because I've been working for myself so long. Nobody's ever going to hire me for anything. So I was a good fit. My co-hosts, Gary and Richard, had already created CampCodger. They just had trouble kind of launching it. And I came along, I've known Gary for a long time, and he talked me into joining the cast. And I brought kind of funny, I brought a younger perspective. I'm 68 years old and I'm the youngest one. And I also brought a little more humor to the mix. They were pretty serious in the beginning, and now we're just having fun. We've got a lot of good information, but we deliver it in a very friendly, fun way.
What's in store for CampCodger in the coming months? What have you got planned, and where's it headed?
Well, we're going to continue to have guest experts because that's real popular, and it also fits with our mission of we want to educate and we want to contribute to the older generation and make sure that that the last act of your life is happy and fulfilling. So we've got folks coming on. We've got a memory expert coming on. We've got somebody who's an expert on preventing falls. Seniors falling down is a horrible medical problem. So we're going to do those kind of topics because they're important. But we're going to do things. We're going to get in the Wayback Machine, as we call it, right, from the old Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon show, which you don't remember, but our audience does. And we're going to talk about old things, great old toys, great old cars, whatever it is we feel like talking about.
Absolutely, and I do remember Boris and Natasha and everybody in the Crazy
Yay!
Moose.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you'd get the reference.
Absolutely, it sounds like a great time, and it's also I'm hearing franchise here. I'm thinking, why don't we get to a real camp outing, and I can see retreats and everybody getting together. It sounds like a great community that you're building there. Randy, is there anything I didn't think to ask you that you feel is important to share with listeners about CampCodger?
Well, this is a real good introduction. I'm really delighted to talk with you because, a lot of what we're doing is outreach. So for the folks who are watching who aren't old enough to really fit in our demographic, somebody who's perfect for CampCodger, tell them about it and show them how to listen to a podcast. Like I said, we are evangelists for podcasting, and we want to spread it as far as we can.
Randy, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for CampCodger and for all of your listeners.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
That was Randy Schultz, co-host of CampCodger.com, and this segment's been brought to you by BooksGrowBusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.